Later that day, you was folding laundry in the servant quarters when one of the older maids started whispering near her ear. "You don't know, do you?" the woman said in a hushed voice. You look up curiously. "No, what?" "That man you saw in the lounge today," she paused, lowering her tone even more. "He's our mafia mentions honor, the most dangerous man in this city, Jungkook, the mafia king." You froze. Her fingers tightened around the fabric she was holding. "Mafia?" The woman nodded quickly, as if someone disobeys him. They disappeared. The next day, no one dares to look into his eyes for too long. Yu's heart dropped. She could still feel his gaze from earlier, that intense stare that had made her run. Her chest tightened with fear. That man, he's the Mafia King. Suddenly everything made sense. The guards, the silence, the rules, the warnings about the second floor. And the night before, when he did grab her wrist, she had been in his private area. Meanwhile, Jungkook's secretary Minji was in quiet shock. The same man who never hesitated to pull a trigger had carefully bandaged a maid's wounded hand. She stood by the office door, whispering to herself, "What's happened to him? Jungkook doesn't care about anyone." Even now, as Jungkook sat in his office pretending to work, she could see the faint distraction in the eyes, like his mind was somewhere else entirely. He never missed details, but today he had asked the same question twice. For someone like Jungkook, that was almost impossible. Minji hesitated for a moment before asking, "Sir, are you feeling all right?" Jungkook looked up, his sharp gaze instantly making her regret the question. "I am fine," he said curtly, but as soon as she left, Jungkook leaned back in his chair, eyes darkening with thought. He couldn't stop thinking about her, about how she flinched when he touched her, how her eyes filled with tears, how her voice shook when she asked to leave. He hated it, the way her fear had wrapped around his heart like chains, but he also loved it. 2 days passed. You stayed as far from Jungkook as possible. She avoided the second floor, the main lounge, and even the corridors he usually used. Every time she heard his footsteps, she hid behind walls or escaped to the kitchen. But even though she tried, fate seemed to pull them closer. Jungkook often found himself walking past the kitchen, the garden, the servant quarters, places he had never cared about before. He told himself it was just coincidence, but deep down he knew the truth. He was looking for her, and every glimpse of her, even for a few seconds, only made the obsession grow stronger. She was delicate, frightened, untouched by the darkness he lived in, and something about that innocence made him restless. That night, as he sat in his office alone, Jungkook stared at the security feeds showing you cleaning the halls. The movements were soft, her face calm, but there was still a hint of sadness in her eyes. He leaned forward, his jaw tight. "She's so much scared of me," he whispered. "Good she should be." A small curve on his lips, dark, possessive, and dangerously calm. And with that, Jungkook made a quiet promise in his mind. No matter how far you try to stay away, he will make sure she could never escape his world. It was almost 2 a.m. The mansion was silent except for the soft hum of security lights outside. You turned in her sleep when a sudden sharp scream broke the stillness. It came again, louder, this time full of pain. Her eyes snapped open. She sat up, clutching her blanket. Her heart races. For a few seconds she thought she was dreaming, but another sound followed. A metallic lunge, then a gun cocking. You froze. Something inside her whispered not to give, but her shaking legs moved anyway. She stepped out of her room barefoot, following the echo down the corridor. The mansion looked different at night, colder and endless. She followed the noise towards a narrow door she had never opened before. A dim red light glowed under it. Her hand trembled as she turned the knob. The door cracked open to reveal a stairway spreading into darkness, and then she heard it a bang, loud final. She gasped and ran down the stairs before she could think. The smell of smoke and burned gunpowder filled the air. At the end of the room stood Jungkook. His tall figure was half hidden in the flickering lights. In front of him, a man was on his knees, blood on his shirt, begging for mercy. Jungkook's voice was low and cold. "You thought you could betray me and leave?" The man cried, shaking his head. "Sir, I didn't." Another bang silenced him. The joy bounced off the concrete walls. Yu hands flew to her mouth. Her screams tore through the room before she could stop it. Jungkook's hair turned sharply. Their eyes met, his burning like a storm. Her white with horror. The guard rushed in immediately. "Boss, it's the maid," one of them shouted. Jungkook's expression didn't change, but his voice cut through the noise. "Take the body out." She started walking towards you. You stumbled backward, her vision spinning. The smell of gunfire, the sight of blood, it was too much. Her knees buckled faint. The last thing she saw was Jungkook's dark figure standing over her before everything faded to black. When she opened her eyes again, moonlight split across the room, soft sheets under her fingers, a faint scent of collagen, the someone she had smelled that night. Her heart pounded. She looked around the black walls, glass windows, the huge desk, Jungkook's room. She gasped and jumped off the bed. They rushed to the door, but it opened before she could reach it. Jungkook entered, rolling up his sleeves. There was faint red stains still on his shirt. You backed away instantly, pressed herself against the wall. He stopped mid-step, watching her carefully. "You shouldn't have been there," he said quietly. "I didn't mean to," she stumbled, her voice shaking. "I heard someone scream, and I just..." Her knees trembled, tears filled her eyes. "Please don't hurt me," Jungkook sighed, turning ahead through his hair. He walked toward her slowly, his boots silent on the carpet. She flinched when he came too close. He stopped just in front of her, towering over her fragile form. His voice dropped low and dark. "I don't hurt people who don't deserve it." She didn't believe him. Her whole body shook as she tried to move away, but her legs gave out and she slid down beside the table, hiding underneath it, covering her ears like a terrified child. For the first time, Jungkook looked confused. He crouched beside the table, his shadow surrounding the space. "You," he said softly. She didn't respond. Her breath come in fast, uneven sobs. He exhaled slowly, reaching under the table, not to grab her, but to let his finger rest near hers. His tone was still calm, too calm. "You saw something you shouldn't have, but you are safe here. I will make sure no one touches you." She hesitated, then looked up at him, his dark eyes reflecting the moonlight, his expression unreadable. After a long pause, she crawled out slowly. Jungkook helped her stand and guided her to the bed again, his hand gentle but firm. "Sleep," he said quietly. "Forget the noise, forget the fire." Her lips trembled. "I can't forget it." His gaze hardened, then pretend. He turned away, walked towards the balcony and opened the glass doors. Cold wind swept in, brushing his hair as he lit a cigarette. Smoke curled through the air while he watched her, small, fragile, still trembling under the blanket. He pulled out his phone, his voice cold once more. "Find me everything about the new maid," he said. "Name, family, past in one word." Then he ended call. He stood silently looking at her again through the smoke as she was asleep now, but even in her sleep her fingers clutched the blanket tightly. Jungkook smirked faintly, exhaling another puff of smoke. "She really scared of me," he whispered to himself. "Good." He turned his gaze towards the moon, its light painting his face in silver and shadow. "But that fear," he murmured, almost smiling, "will soon belong only to me." And as the wind carried the faint scent of gunpowder from the basement, the ruthless Mafia King knew one thing for sure: the girl who screamed his name in terror would never leave his world again. The night was still dark, but Jungkook's phone began to ring. He stood on the balcony, the faint glow of his cigarette lightening his sharp jawline. "Talk," he said quietly. On the other end, his right-hand man spoke, voice trembling slightly. "Boss, I found everything about the maid. Her name is Yu. She is 16. She lives or used to live with her stepmother and two sisters." Jungkook didn't respond. The man continued reading from the file. "Her father married her mother for money but later abandoned her. Her mother died when she was young. After that, her stepmother discovered the truth that Yu was her husband's daughter from another woman. Since then, she's been treated worse than a servant." There was silence, only the faint sound of the wind moved. The man went on quietly. "She was beaten almost every day, but interestingly, every time they tried to hurt her, she would hide behind doors, under tables, inside cupboards. She did never fight back, just disappear until it was over." At that, Jungkook's eyes softened. "So that's why she hid under the table." The image of her trembling hands, her tearful eyes, and the way she curled up in fear flashed before him. For the first time in years, something unfamiliar stirred inside him. Pity, or maybe something deeper. "Send me the file," Jungkook ordered, his voice quieter now. He ended the call, dropped the cigarette, and stepped back into the room. Yu was still asleep, her face turned towards the window. Her bandaged hand rested on the blanket. Jungkook stood beside the bed for a long moment. His usual coldness had vanished. "Even when you are scared," he murmured under his breath, "you look like you belong here." When morning came, Yu slowly opened her eyes. The sunlight was warm, soft against her skin. She blinked, then froze completely. Jungkook was sitting right beside her, leaning casually on the chair, back shut, slightly unbuttoned, his dark eyes fixed on her. Used caps and sat up instantly, clutched the blanket to her chest. Her lips trembled. "What are you doing here?" Jungkook didn't answer at first. He just watched her, his gaze unreadable but not cruel. Finally, he said quietly, "You talk in your sleep." Her eyes widened. "What did I? You were crying," he interrupted softly, saying sorry to someone. "Was it your stepmother?" Your throat went dry. She didn't respond. She didn't want to remember. Jungkook sighed and leaned closer. His tone had changed, though almost gentle. "You don't have to be scared here," he said. "No one will touch you." His voice was calm, but the way he looked at her made her chest tighten. There was the danger in that warmth. He reached out slowly, tugging a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. You froze again. His touch was gentle, but his eyes were too intense. "Stop crying," he murmured, almost like a whisper. That broke her. Tears split down her cheeks before she could stop them. "I didn't mean to come to that place," she whispered. "Please don't hurt me. I will stay away, I promise." Jungkook's jaw clenched slightly. He was not angry, just conflicted. Without saying a word, he stood up and stepped back. "Go," he said finally. You didn't wait for another word. She ran out of the room, down the hallway, her heartbeat echoed in her ears. A week passed. The mentioned usual rhythm returned, footsteps made, cleaning, security patrols, but something felt different. Every morning, Jungkook would sit in his office pretending to read files, but his mind wandered again and again to the small maid who avoided him like the plague. He hadn't seen her since that morning. She changed, her work shifted, stayed mostly near the garden or the servant quarters. He didn't stop her, not yet. He wanted to see how long she could hide. Every time he passed the corridors, he did catch glimpse the corner of her skirt disappearing around a wall, the faint sound of her log when another maid told a joke, or her reflection in the window when she thought no one was watching. Each sign only made the strange pull inside him stronger. Meanwhile, you tried to pretend that everything was fine, but it was not. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the flash of the gun, the scream, the blood. She didn't wake up in the middle of the night, trembling, pressing her hands to her ears to block the echo. Sometimes she did hear footsteps in the hall, heavy, steady. She froze, knowing exactly who it was, but the footsteps always stopped before reaching her door. Jungkook never entered her room again, but she could feel his presence, always nearby, watching silently. One evening, head maid noticed Jungkook sitting alone in the main lounge. "Sir," she said gently, "you seem distracted these days." Jungkook looked up from his glass of whiskey. "Do I?" The maid smiled faintly. "Since that maid arrived, the air around you has changed. Softer, quieter." He didn't reply, just slipped his drink and looked out the window where the garden lights flickered faintly. Finally, he said in a low tone, "She's afraid of me." "And you like that?" Jungkook's lips curved slightly. "No, I want her to stop being afraid, but I also don't want her to forget who I am." The head maid tilted her head. "And then what do you want from her exactly?" Jungkook's eyes darkened as he stared into distance. "I don't know," he said quietly, "but every time I see her smile, I want to destroy everything that ever made her cry." That night, you stood near the window of her small room, the moonlight washing over her face. She didn't know that across the mansion someone else was watching her through the security cameras. Jungkook leaned back in his chair, eyes fixed on the screen where she appeared, small, fragile, lost in thoughts. His hand tapped against the desk slowly. In the quiet of his office, he whispered to himself, "You can hide as much as you want, little angel, but sooner or later you will belong to me." And as the night grew deeper, the ruthless Mafia King who once killed without mercy felt something he couldn't control anymore, a darkness that was not just violent but possessive. Jungkook sat in his office that evening, his eyes lost in thought. The memories of the past weeks kept replaying. You trembling her hands, her quiet voice, the way she hid from him. It was strange. He had faced blood, betrayal, and death without emotion, but one scared cut had shaken his control. The head woman, Miss Han, walked in quietly and placed a cup of tea on his desk. "You have been thinking too much again," he said softly. Jungkook looked up for a long moment. He said nothing. Then finally, in his deep voice, he admitted, "I am thinking I am obsessed with her." Miss Han froze. Obsessed?" Jungkook leaned back in his chair. His eyes were calm but dangerous. "I can't get her out of my mind. Every time she's near me, I feel like I need to protect her, and when she hides from me, I feel like I am losing control." Miss Han stared at him, completely shocked. She had known Jungkook since he was a boy, the ruthless, fearless, untouched, but hearing him confess something like this was new. Still, a faint smile touched her lips. For the first time, she said gently, "You sound like a man, not a king." And Jungkook looked away. "Don't make it sound romantic, Miss Han." Miss Han shook her head slowly. "Maybe, but she's a good girl, Jungkook. If anyone can calm the monster inside you, it's her." He didn't reply, but his jaw relaxed just slightly. After a pause, Jungkook said quietly, "From now on, you wouldn't do house chores. No cleaning, no kitchen, nothing. She will rest." Miss Han blinked in surprise. "What? Why?" "The work keep her busy. If you take that away, she will think she's being punished." "I don't want her to work like a servant," Jungkook said firmly. "But she is not treated like one," Miss Han explained carefully. "We already gave her the easiest task. If she doesn't stay busy, she will start thinking again and remembering. You know what I mean." Jungkook was silent for a long time. Finally he sighed. "Fine, let her work, but if anyone even look at her the wrong way," Miss Han smiled friendly, "they will regret it." "I understand, Jungkook." The next afternoon, the mansion was calm. The sun was warm, the breeze soft. You sit in the garden, her hands buried in soft fur as she played with Jungkook's pet dog. Shadow, the animal, had become her only comfort in this strange cold house. "Good boy," she whispered, feeding him a biscuit. Shadow wagged his tail happily. For the first time in days, she saw a small, genuine smile. She had no idea that high above from the second-floor balcony, Jungkook was watching her. He stood silently, hands in his pocket, a faint shadow over his face. There was something peaceful about seeing her like that. Logging softly, unaware of his gaze, but that peace shuddered in silence. Two guards walked into the garden, pretending to check the perimeter. Jungkook didn't pay attention at first, but when one of them bent too close to you and said something, and she instantly stepped back, his eyes narrowed. Then the second guard grabbed her wrist. "Let me go," you cried, trying to pull away. The men looked. "Just come for a minute." They didn't finish their sentence before the next sound was bang. Then another. Two clean shots. Both guards dropped instantly. You froze, staring in horror as blood spread across the crowd. Jungkook stood there, gun still in his hand, his face blank, eyes black with rage. The silence after the gunfire was deafening. You breathing quickly, she looked down. Her hands, her dress, both were splattered with blood. Her lips parted in a silent scream before her body went weak. The last thing she saw was Jungkook running towards her as something faded into darkness. When you woke up, the room smelled of jasmine. The soft light from the lamps made it clear she was not in the garden anymore. Her head hurt. She tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy. Then she noticed her clothes were different. The blood was gone. Someone had changed her into clean, soft fabric. She panicked for a second, but then she saw a folded note beside the bed. "You are safe. The maid took care of you, Junji." Her heart pounded. She pressed her head over her mouth as the memory of the guard's lifeless eyes flashed again. The tears filled her eyes. "He killed them because of me," she whispered shakily. Her gaze fell on her hand, clean now, but she could still feel the blood. It was not washed away from her mind. She stood up, trembling. The room was too silent, too big. For the first time, the mansion didn't feel like a cage anymore. It felt like a trap. She walked to the mirror and stared at her reflection. Her face looked pale, scared, lost. She whispered to herself, "I can't stay here anymore." heart raced as she began planning silently. She didn't know where she would go, but she knew she had to escape no matter what Jungkook felt, no matter how much he claimed to protect her, because protection that came with blood was not protection at all. That night, Jungkook stood in his study staring at the two guards while lying on the desk. The boss of them quietly he ordered coldly. "Yes, boss," his man replied. When they fell, he lit another cigarette and leaned back in his chair, but even as he inhaled, his chest felt heavy. He had protected her, yet somehow he felt like he did destroy something too. Maybe her trust, maybe the small smile she had that afternoon. He exhaled slowly, smoke drifting through the room. In the darkness, he whispered, "You will hate me for this, wouldn't you, Angel?" But deep down, Jungkook knew the truth. He didn't care if she hated him. He just couldn't stand the thought of anyone else touching her. Meanwhile, in her small room, Yu quietly packed a small bag under her blanket, just a few clothes, a little money, nothing else. Her hands shook as she tried the strange tie. Tomorrow night, she whispered to herself when the guard change shifted, "I will run." Her heartbeat was loud, but her eyes were determined now.